Welcome, people. Module 6.1. How did the settlement of the Great Plains continue American policies towards the Native Americans? I'm going to have you do something different. I want you to work on vocabulary, but I want you to work on vocabulary in a meaningful way. I've discovered an awesome new website that I've been using with all my classes. It's called Study Blue. So, if you go to www.studyblue.com, you're going to have something coming up. Okay, let's see. All right, so basically, this is a flashcard application website where you can make your own flashcards. Let me see if I can resize this thing so that it'll actually be in the window. There we go. Okay, so this is what Study Blue looks like. Basically, you're going to go here, you're going to sign up, and you're going to get in here. And once you get in here, you're going to go to this thing called Make Flashcards. There's also an app for this that you can download on your phone so you can study things ahead of time. So basically, what you can do is you can make flashcards, okay? So I'm going to do a flashcard. First, you do the one side where it's the thing, and then the other side where it's the definition. So the Civil War, conflict between the North and South between 1860 to 1861, actually the war started. 1860 to 1865 over slavery and states' rights. Okay, after that I'm going to add a new card. Antebellum. I spelled it wrong, so I'll fix it. Okay. Period before the Civil War. Okay. So basically that you do that. After you do that, you save them. I'm going to call this Civil War. Location. I'm going to add a class just for you. A push. Okay. Add it. Okay. A push. Okay. And there. That should all pop up. So that should come up, and I'm going to save them there. I'm going to go to my backpack later. I got my cards. I go here, and I can start to study them. Okay, I don't want that. I don't want that. And basically, I look at this. Okay, I can study my cards. Why did I do it like that? I set it up for fill in the blank. I don't like fill in the blank. Oh, I don't want that. Okay, so let's see. No, go back. There. Okay. Yo, I want multiple choices. Why do I want? I don't want type the answer. I don't want that. Anyway, I don't know why my crap ain't working, but it should be working for you. Yo. There. Okay. Antebellum. Yeah, no, that's false. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you get that. All right. That's what you're going to do with that. Now, you have some words to define. I want you to reservation system, Battle of Little Bighorn, Battle of Wounded Knees, Dawes Severity Act, mining industry, Sitting Bull, Chief Joseph. To what extent? This is your focus question. To what extent Native American policy after the Civil War was consistent with or different from Native American policy before the Civil War? So Native American policy, is it going to change? Is it going to stay the same? You figure it out. Let's go into it. Let's dive right in. The Western frontier. All right, so they are building the Transcontinental Railroad. They are connecting the country east and west. And finally, people are going to have an easy way to travel between the two. That great open area from the Louisiana Purchase and the Mexican Cession is finally going to be stitched together by a series of internal improvements. However, there is an issue. There are about 360,000 100,000 Native Americans living in the West at this time. And they've been pushed out there. They've been pushed out there since before the Civil War, because if we go back to the Trail of Tears, any time there is decent land where white settlers want and Native Americans are, those Native Americans get pushed off. When Andrew Jackson and Congress did the Indian Removal Act against the wishes of Supreme Court with Worcester versus Georgia and Cherokee Nation versus Jackson, I think it was. So, with the building of the Transcontinental Railroad, these areas are going to be open for settlement. The only thing is the Native Americans are there. Native Americans are on the Great Plains. They're living in this area. They had adopted the horse. They are living a proud lifestyle, living off from the buffalo. They are hunters and gatherers by and large, moving around a lot. And you just can't have Native Americans moving around willy-nilly when you have ideas of, like, land ownership and everything else coming in. So, Indian policy. The federal government basically had a policy where we're going to establish reservations, and we're going to say this area is reserved for Native Americans. Now, Native American reservations, according to United States law, technically are independent countries. So Native Americans can do whatever they want on these reservations. Okay? That means that Native American people are sovereign lands. Sovereign lands means they're independent. They're free. That means that we have no control over what happens to them. Still the same thing today. This is why so many Native American tribes have casinos where the state that they are in, laws are illegal. Or that's why you have so many people going to buy cigarettes and alcohol from Native Americans, because they don't pay taxes the same way that we do. They live on independent lands, so they have different sets of rules. So they are basically independent countries within the borders of the United States. These treaties are these reservations are established by treaties that the federal government makes with the Native Americans. The federal government recognizes the rights of these Native American tribes as sovereign entities. And as long as they are on their reservations, Native Americans are able to do whatever they want. They can live their nomadic lifestyle, and basically they don't have to worry about that. But here is the issue, okay? Native Americans are used to going and coming as they please. And also, they're used to all of the land being theirs, and then they have the idea that, well, land ownership doesn't exist, so why should I have to stay on this land when, the Great Spirit entitles everybody to all of the land? So their nomadic lifestyle did not exactly jive with the vision the federal government had. So there is bound to be conflict. And as settlers are moving west, there are going to be a series of skirmishes and battles with Native Americans, and you already know where this is going. You have a highly trained army that is fresh off of fighting the Civil War, most deadly war in American history. They are heavily armed, they are well equipped and well trained. And then you're fighting a whole bunch of Native Americans who are used to hunting for a living. Yes, the Native Americans will, to some extent, adopt modern weapons and the horse, but they are still outgunned, outmatched, and outnumbered. Now, let's bring in the great iron beast. All right, that's right, the locomotives that are coming through, the trains that are coming through. Now, there is an issue. The buffalo, the great Northern American bison, the Great Plains bison. This animal roamed the plains in gigantic herds, and those herds would go to and fro as they wanted. The Native Americans would go and hunt these buffalo. Using the buffalo was part of the way of life of the Native Americans. And the buffalo are just pretty much out there everywhere. The only thing is, if you have a train that's speeding along, the last thing you need is a herd of buffalo crossing your track and derailing your train. So these bison were seen as a safety hazard for these railroads. That meant that the railroads actually hired hunters to go and just start shooting the bison, whereas the bison were once a plentiful creature that lived in harmony with the plains, and Native Americans would use them. the settlers that were moving in, they just killed them indiscriminately. They would use the buffalo hide as something to keep warm, but the rest of the animal they left to rot. And of course, this went at odds with the Native American belief that you should use every single part of the animal. I mean, they used every part of the animal, you know, from the stomach to the bladder. You know, even you'll love this one, boys. They even use the testicles of the bison as rattles for newborns. So they would use the skin and they'd fill it up with some rice or whatever and use it as a rattle. Think about that one. Nice, right? What was I going to look for? Okay. Yes. So dead buffalo piles. So if we take a look, you know, yeah. These are as an actual pile of dead buffalo. Like there's a bunch of these. These are all buffalo skulls right there. And this was seen as a great pacifying thing that we were doing to the West. We were going in, we were settling, we were removing all these influences from the plains, and as we killed the buffalo, it had the added bonus of destroying the Native American food supply. Now, of course, the Native Americans are going to be pretty mad about this, and they're going to start, you know, fighting back, because this is their way of life. This is one of the most famous Native American resistance fighters, that is Sitting Bull. Alright, so Native Americans are going to clash with the army, and there's going to be massacres committed on both sides. Native Americans are going to come in and kill a whole bunch and scalp a whole bunch of people. So then the army is going to go in and behead a bunch of Native Americans. It's just ugly going back and forth. In 1864 at Sand Creek, Colorado, there was a Colonel Covington. His militia killed 400 Native Americans in cold blood. In 1866, a Sioux party was attempting to stop whites from pushing into Montana for gold, and they killed 81 militiamen. In 1874, there is going to be gold discovered in the Black Hills of Colorado. And that is Sioux territory. So General George Armstrong Custer is going to be going in there to take care of the Native Americans. Chief Sitting Bull is not about to take this thing lightly. And they actually massacre Custer's 7th Cavalry, killing 284 troops at the Battle of Little Bighorn, forever making Sitting Bull a hero to resistance fighters everywhere. After that, Sitting Bull retreated into Canada, and every once in a while would come back down and just, you know, make the armies and the whites' lives a living hell. There was also the Nez Perce, the people of the Pierce Noses, and their leader, they were in the Black Hills as well. Their leader is going to be named Chief Joseph. And basically their people were being forced from their lands. They were fighting for a while, but basically it just got to be too much, and Chief Joseph, in a very famous speech, basically goes to Congress and says, "You have destroyed our people. I will fight no more forever." And basically when Chief Joseph came up, that was kind of symbolic, that the fighting spirit of the Native Americans was kind of dying out. The Native Americans were giving way to alcoholism that was slowly destroying their communities, and they realized that the lifestyle that they once had was going to be no more. Then, of course, there's Wounded Knee. This happens in 1890. As Native Americans were forced into reservations, a lot of them just, you know, simply were depressed and they just couldn't take it. So there was this mystical belief that started up called ghost dancing. And Native Americans believed that if you danced a certain dance, that the bullets of the white man would not hurt you. Now, of course, this is going to scare the crap out of the army, because if you have a bunch of people thinking the bullets can't harm you, then they're going to be dangerous because they're not going to be afraid of anything. So in Wounded Knee in South Dakota, there was a ghost dancing ceremony, and the militia was there. They believed that the Native Americans were about to rebel because they started their ghost dancing. So the militia opened fire. 200 men, women, and children were killed in cold blood, left to rot. That was Wounded Knee. Dawes Act. This is going to be a law passed by Congress in 1887. We want to add this to our laws of the West. We want to add this in with the Homestead Act. We want to add this in with the Homestead Act and the Transcontinental Railroad Act. The Dawes Act is going to be a law which is basically saying that any remaining lands in the West will be turned into homesteads. Native Americans are welcome to their own homestead. They can have 160 acres. But Native Americans aren't used to having land. They don't understand the idea of land ownership. So they include something in the Dawes Act which said that any land that goes unclaimed by the Native Americans will be turned over to the federal government for white settlement and white homesteading. This led to the federal government seizing 2/3 of Native American land. And Native Americans are going to be forced onto reservations in the worst land there was, that basically had no value or no economic benefit, that nobody else saw. By 1890, this is going to be extremely important. In fact, I'm going to add it to your words, Turner thesis. Frederick Jackson Turner, who was a historian, proclaimed that the American frontier, this great western expanse that was uninhabited or unsettled, had been settled. The American frontier was closed. Our manifest destiny had finally been completed. We had gone from sea to shining sea, and now Americans lived in every square inch of it. No longer were we a country that was going to be expanding. And we had been defined by expansion since the very beginning of our country. But now we were expanding no more. So it's kind of like that thing you always want, and you're working and worried so much about getting it that when you finally get it, you don't know what to do. And Turner basically said that with the closing of the American frontier, there was a loss of some piece of American identity, because America was always expanding, and now it's not going to need to expand anymore. Back to our beginning, make sure you make your flashcards. And to what extent was Native American policy after the Civil War consistent with or different from Native American policy before the Civil War? That is your focus question. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing your answers to. Module 6.1 is over. Have a great day.